What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sports Runs on Diesel. And today I'm going to be talking about my winners and losers from the NFL draft, starting off with the Indianapolis Colts. And my personal favorite pick from them was Paris Campbell out of Ohio State, the speedy wide receiver who improved year after year. Finishing off his final season with 90 catches, but every single year he had more and more catches. I Overall, Indianapolis was a clear-cut winner in this draft in terms of who they drafted, and when they got them. So Indianapolis goes in at number one. Right behind them was the Cincinnati Bengals. Their first pick, the 11th overall pick, Jonah Williams, who I think is an immediate starter, an immediate need for this team. He could either be a guard or he could be a tackle, but a perfect fit for this Cincinnati Bengals team. They also got Drew Sample, who I thought was who I think is a good run blocking tight end. And they also got Jermaine Pratt in the third round, who was a converted safety, who was probably going to be filling in at that linebacker position for Vontaze Burfict, who is no longer with them. So coming in a close second, Cincinnati. Number three, coming right behind them is the Cleveland Browns, who paid very big attention to detail, and they went right after nothing but defensive players in this draft. 5 out of their 7 picks were defensive players. The one that I liked the most was Greedy Williams, who I think is extremely talented. Another player who I think is a perfect fit for this team. So Cleveland comes in at number 3. And lastly, the New England Patriots. That's a big shocker. A team that comes in and year out and is always a step ahead of everyone else. Whether it's some of the draft picks they got this year. Keel Harry out of Arizona State, the wide receiver who I think has the best hands in the class, and is also going to be a red zone threat for this team. Chase Winovich out of Michigan. That was their third round pick, who's a versatile edge player who will be have his hands full and possibly be filling in the role of Trey Flowers, who is no longer with them and is now in Detroit. But I love their pick of Chase Winovich. And then their another third round pick, 10 picks later, Damian Harris, the running back out of Bama, who I think is underrated as a runner, but he's not gonna get many snaps this year because he's gonna be behind Sony Michel and Rex Burkhead. So those are my winners there: Colts, Bengals, Browns, and Patriots. In terms of the losing side, the clear-cut obvious loser came 6 picks into it, with the Giants picking Daniel Jones. The quarterback out of Duke, who put up decent numbers, had over 60% completion percentage, 2,600 yards, 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, decent stats, a good, solid quarterback, I think, who has an upside potential to be a starter, but picking him that early was kind of let's just say a brain fart, in my opinion. I think it was the wrong time to pick him. Even though he may be a perfect fit for the Giants, I think the Giants squandered a pick and squandered, someone who possibly could be a better quarterback than him, Drew Lock. But we can't sit here and speculate about Drew Lock and, go after him at all, because he went through 3 offensive coordinators in his seasons there at Missouri. So only time will tell who was the better draft pick, Drew Lock or Daniel Jones. But I really do think that the Giants messed up on this pick. The other team that I thought was a big loser in this one was the Chargers. They had a lot of decent depth picks in terms of on the chart, who's available, on the chart in terms of the positions they needed. I think they got decent players, but I could be wrong here. Some of these players could impact their team and could be a real difference maker for them going into the upcoming season. Starting off with Jerry Tillery out of Notre Dame, the defensive tackle there. I think he's a boom or bust player. There were great moments he had last year in Notre Dame. There were really bad moments he had in Notre Dame. So I really do think that that was one pick that really stood out to me. They picked him late in the first round. But the other pick that kind of stood out to me was Drew Tranquill, the inside linebacker. He's a decent depth chart option. I thought there were other players on the depth chart in the inside linebacker position that were better at the time. But that was in the fourth round. So, I mean, they probably picked what was best available for them and who would fit their needs. So, Chargers, Giants, unfortunately, y'all get a big L for this one. But real quick, I just want to go over a couple of impact players or players I think that are going to really impact the season immediately this year in terms of the players that came out of this draft. First up, obviously, is Kyler Murray coming out of Oklahoma, the quarterback, the very mobile quarterback. Russell Wilson, like mobile quarterback, a quarterback who's got pretty good accuracy across the field, thrown across his body. Could work on the accuracy a little bit in terms of the deep ball, but with his feet and being mobile, he'll be able to extend plays, and that's going to keep the defenses honest. And he's going to be a real impact player for the Arizona Cardinals team. But I still don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to make the playoffs this season. I think it's going to take a couple of years. Once he starts developing and they start surrounding him with other players, Arizona might be a team that may threaten to be in the playoff picture. Second, one of my personal favorites, Quinnen Williams, the Jets picked out of Alabama. He had 18 and a half tackles for loss, seven sacks last year. Has a terrific first step. He barely loses a one-on-one matchup. They will double team him. There's plenty of tape that shows him being double teamed and splitting the double team with that quick first step. So Quinnen Williams will be a very key impact player for the New York Jets this year as they ramp up and try and make a name for themselves in the AFC East. Also, sticking in the AFC East, I loved Ed Oliver out of Houston that the Buffalo Bills picked. An elite first step, high-end closing speed, has a lot of power, could be a player him and Quinnen Williams are going to be players that are going to force turnovers, fumbles, force, bad passes, maybe force interceptions. They're going to be high impact players early in this upcoming season. There's also Marquise Brown that the Baltimore Ravens picked. Very, very explosive speed. The only question is that 5'9" frame, and how much of a size advantage is he? He's really not going to have much of a size advantage against these NFL elite corners and safeties. But I think his speed and quickness is going to help him and help Lamar Jackson in the deep ball game, in terms of blowing by coverages and stuff. I think he's going to be a key impact player in the deep ball game. And lastly, T.J. Hawkinson out of Iowa, who I thought was the most complete prospect out of the whole entire draft. Great run blocking tight end, very agile. Some of his highlights kind of reminded me of Rob Gronkowski a little bit. Very mobile. Like I said, good run blocker. But I think TJ will have a high impact this year for the Detroit Lions. That's all I got for you guys today. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Comment, smash that like button. Thank you guys for your time and have a good night.